The ocean appears calm from the surface, a vast plain of moving blue, but far below, something enormous is moving through the water, unseen and unheard by anything above. Its heart beats slowly, each contraction pushing hundreds of liters of blood through arteries wide enough for a human to crawl through. With every breath, it exchanges more air than an entire forest of trees. With every movement, it reshapes the water around it. This animal should not exist. Physics resists it. Biology struggles to explain it. Evolution seems to have pushed past reasonable limits to allow it. A blue whale glides through the darkness, larger than any creature that has ever lived, dwarfing the largest dinosaurs by mass. It feeds on prey smaller than a fingernail. It sings across entire ocean basins. It migrates farther than almost any other mammal on Earth. Today, we're diving into why nothing about blue whales is normal, and how evolution, ocean physics, and deep time combined to create an animal that exists right at the edge of what life can sustain. This is not a story of size alone. It's a story of improbable biology, hidden constraints, and the thin line between what is possible and what should never have worked at all. The story begins not with whales, but with water itself. On land, gravity is relentless. Every increase in body mass demands thicker bones, stronger muscles, and ever more energy just to stand. Size becomes a liability long before it becomes an advantage. But in the ocean, gravity loosens its grip. Water carries weight. Buoyancy transforms mass from a burden into something almost neutral, allowing bodies to grow far beyond what dry land would ever permit. This single physical fact changes everything. For millions of years, the ocean has offered a rare evolutionary loophole, the chance to grow enormous without collapsing under your own weight. Blue whales are not the first animals to exploit it. Long before them, giant marine reptiles like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs reached immense sizes. Later came enormous sharks, including megalodon, but none pushed the boundary as far as whales would. The ocean does more than support weight. It moves energy differently. Nutrients circulate through currents that span entire basins. Sunlight fuels plankton blooms that rise and fall with seasons, creating vast but fleeting concentrations of life. This pulsing abundance makes it possible for animals to feed on tiny prey, as long as they can process it in unimaginable quantities. Blue whales emerge from this system not as anomalies, but as its extreme expression. Unlike land ecosystems, where food energy is locked into fixed places, the ocean concentrates biomass vertically and horizontally. Cold, nutrient-rich waters rise from the deep, feeding phytoplankton. Zooplankton feed on them. Krill gather into dense swarms that can stretch for kilometers. For an animal capable of locating and harvesting these swarms efficiently, size becomes an advantage rather than a cost. Evolution takes note. Early whales were small, semi-aquatic mammals. Over time, lineages that could dive deeper, travel farther, and filter more water gained access to richer feeding grounds. As bodies grew, lungs expanded, blood volumes increased, muscles adapted to store oxygen. Each increase in size unlocked new ecological opportunities, reinforcing the trend toward gigantism. But size alone is not enough. Warm-blooded animals face a constant challenge: heat loss. In water, heat drains away far faster than in air. For small marine mammals, this is deadly. For large ones, it becomes manageable. A massive body loses heat more slowly. Thick layers of blubber insulate vital organs. What would freeze a smaller animal allows a giant to thrive in icy seas. The blue whale becomes a living thermal reservoir, able to exploit cold, productive waters that smaller competitors cannot endure. This combination of buoyancy, energy concentration, and thermal stability creates a narrow window where extreme size is not just possible, but favored. The ocean opens that window, but it does not widen it indefinitely. Every advantage carries a cost. The larger an animal becomes, the harder it is to find enough food, oxygen, and time to sustain it. Blue whales sit precisely at the point where these forces balance. One step larger and the system would fail. One step smaller and the opportunity would be lost. Their size is not excess, it is exact. For an animal the size of a blue whale, survival is a daily mathematical problem. Every heartbeat, every muscle contraction, every dive consumes energy at a scale no other creature has ever faced. The solution to this problem is not hunting large prey, but mastering abundance itself. Blue whales feed almost exclusively on krill, tiny, shrimp-like crustaceans weighing less than a gram each. On their own, krill are nutritionally insignificant. Together, they form one of the largest biomass concentrations on the planet. In the cold waters of the Southern Ocean and the North Pacific, krill gather into dense swarms so thick they appear on sonar as solid walls. A blue whale approaches one of these swarms with precision. It accelerates, opening its mouth to an angle nearly unimaginable for a mammal. The lower jaw hinges outward, pleated throat grooves unfolding like an accordion. In a single lunge, the whale engulfs a volume of water larger than its own body. This act should be impossible. The drag alone is immense, threatening to stall the animal mid-lunge. Yet evolution has refined every element of the process. The jaws are reinforced but lightweight. The tongue acts as a dynamic piston, helping push water back out after the mouth closes. Elastic tissues store and release energy, reducing the metabolic cost of each engulfment. Once the mouth closes, the whale filters the captured water through baleen, keratin plates hanging from the upper jaw. Water escapes, krill remain. In seconds, tens of millions of prey are swallowed in a single gulp. But even this extraordinary efficiency is not enough unless conditions are perfect. Blue whales feed intensively during short seasonal windows when krill are most concentrated. In these periods, a single adult can consume up to 4 tons of krill per day. The rest of the year, feeding opportunities diminish, and the whales rely on energy stored as blubber. This feast and famine cycle shapes their entire biology. Metabolism slows during migration, growth halts. Reproduction is delayed. A blue whale calf gains weight at a rate unmatched by any other animal, drinking milk that is nearly 50% fat, more like heavy cream than anything humans produce. The physics of feeding imposes hard limits. Larger whales require disproportionately more energy to accelerate for each lunge. Recent research suggests that blue whales may be at the maximum size, at which lunge feeding remains energetically profitable. Beyond this point, the cost of engulfing water would exceed the calories gained. In this sense, the blue whale's diet does not support its size, it defines it. Every migration, every dive, every feeding event is a negotiation between abundance and constraint. Blue whales are not oversized by chance. They are precisely tuned to exploit a resource that exists only briefly, only in certain places, and only because the ocean itself makes it possible. Their survival depends not on strength or speed, but on timing, efficiency, and a food web that stretches from microscopic algae to the largest animal that has ever lived. Inside a blue whale, everything is pushed toward the edge of biological possibility. Scale changes not just size, but function. Organs must operate under conditions no other animal experiences, and small failures become catastrophic when multiplied across such mass. The heart is the most striking example. A blue whale's heart can weigh more than 180 kilograms, roughly the size of a small motorcycle. With each beat, it pushes hundreds of liters of blood through a circulatory system stretching nearly 100,000 kilometers when fully extended. At the surface, the heart beats slowly, around 30 times per minute. During deep dives, it can drop to just 2 beats per minute. This extreme flexibility is not optional. Oxygen must be conserved with ruthless efficiency. Blue whales store oxygen not only in their lungs, but in their blood and muscles. High concentrations of myoglobin bind oxygen tightly, releasing it slowly as the animal dives. Blood vessels constrict in non-essential tissues, redirecting oxygen to the brain and heart. For minutes at a time, vast portions of the body operate in low oxygen conditions. Bones, too, tell a story of compromise. They are massive but relatively light, filled with spongy tissue rather than dense marrow. This reduces weight without sacrificing strength. Yet even with buoyancy, structural limits remain. Muscles must move flippers longer than a small boat. Tendons experience forces that would tear apart smaller mammals. Then there is growth. Blue whales are born already enormous, weighing as much as a car. Within months, they double in size. This explosive growth places immense demands on cells, particularly neurons. Signals traveling from brain to tail must cross distances measured in tens of meters. Reaction times slow. Movements become deliberate, economical, never wasteful. Recent studies suggest that even nerve signal speed may be a limiting factor. Larger bodies mean longer delays between perception and response. Evolution compensates with behavior. Blue whales avoid sharp turns, sudden accelerations, or complex maneuvers. Their world favors anticipation over reaction. Perhaps the most fragile system of all is reproduction. Gestation lasts nearly a year. Females give birth to a single calf every 2 to 3 years, sometimes longer. Population recovery is slow by necessity. There is no biological shortcut for animals of this size. Evidence is mounting that blue whales may be near the absolute upper limit for animals that rely on internal oxygen transport and muscle-powered movement. Hearts cannot grow indefinitely stronger. Blood cannot flow infinitely faster. Tissue cannot dissipate heat without consequence. The blue whale is not a triumph over limits. It is a living negotiation with them. Its existence reveals where biology bends and where it refuses to bend further. In the open ocean, size is only part of survival. Distance, darkness, and isolation define the blue whale's world. Vision fades quickly with depth. Smell disperses unpredictably in water. To navigate this vast, shifting environment, blue whales rely on senses tuned not to detail, but to scale. Sound becomes their primary connection to the world. Blue whale calls are among the lowest, frequency vocalizations produced by any animal, often below the range of human hearing. These sounds can travel hundreds, possibly thousands, of kilometers through deep ocean channels. A single call, lasting up to 30 seconds, bends around seafloor contours and slips beneath surface noise, carrying information across entire basins. This is not communication in the way humans understand it. Blue whales do not chatter or exchange complex sequences. Their calls are slow, rhythmic, and repetitive, more like signals than conversations. They likely convey location, reproductive status, and possibly individual identity. In a world where encounters are rare, the ability to announce presence across vast distances becomes essential. Their brains reflect this lifestyle. While not unusually large relative to body size, blue whale brains are organized to process low frequency sound and spatial information over immense scales. The auditory cortex is well developed. Neural pathways emphasize integration rather than rapid reaction. Migration reveals this intelligence in motion. Blue whales travel thousands of kilometers between feeding and breeding grounds, often along remarkably consistent routes. These migrations span hemispheres, crossing open ocean with few landmarks. Navigation likely combines geomagnetic sensing, memory of oceanographic features, and acoustic cues from distant coastlines and seafloor structures. Calves learn these routes not through instinct alone, but through extended association with their mothers. Years may pass before a young whale travels independently. Knowledge accumulates slowly, passed through generations that may never meet directly, but remain linked by inherited behaviors. Behaviorally, blue whales are restrained. They do not engage in acrobatics like humpbacks or complex social structures like dolphins. Their intelligence is expressed through efficiency and timing, knowing when to arrive, where to feed, when to move on. Human activity has altered this acoustic world. Ship engines, seismic surveys, and naval sonar introduce low-frequency noise that overlaps with whale communication. In some regions, blue whales change call patterns or increase volume, expending additional energy just to be heard. In others, communication may be masked entirely. This disruption is invisible but profound. For an animal whose perception is built around sound traveling across continents, noise becomes a form of habitat loss. Blue whale intelligence is not flashy. It is vast, slow, and spatial, shaped by a life lived at planetary scale. Their minds are tuned not to moments, but to oceans. For most of their evolutionary history, blue whales had no predators capable of threatening adults. Their size placed them beyond meaningful risk. That changed abruptly within the last 2 centuries. Industrial whaling transformed the ocean into a hunting ground. Steam-powered ships, explosive harpoons, and factory processing allowed humans to target animals once considered unreachable. Blue whales, slow, moving and rich in oil, became prime targets. In a matter of decades, populations collapsed. By the mid-20th century, an estimated 90% of blue whales had been killed. The silence that followed was not metaphorical. Entire ocean basins lost the low-frequency calls that had once traveled through them. Genetic diversity narrowed. Migration routes faded from memory as individuals disappeared faster than knowledge could be passed on. Whaling bans eventually slowed the slaughter, but recovery has been uneven and fragile. Blue whales reproduce slowly by necessity. Each loss carries outsized weight. A single ship strike can erase decades of future offspring. Entanglement in fishing gear can mean a slow, unseen death in open water. Climate change introduces a quieter but equally serious threat. Krill depend on cold waters and seasonal ice. As ocean temperatures rise and ice patterns shift, krill distributions change. Feeding grounds that once supported massive whales become unreliable. The whales must travel farther, arrive earlier or later, or risk missing the brief windows of abundance their bodies require. Noise pollution continues to spread, shipping lanes multiply, offshore development expands. For blue whales, this is not inconvenience, it is interference with the primary sense through which they understand their world. And yet they persist. In some regions, blue whale numbers are slowly increasing. Individuals are reoccupying former habitats. Calls are returning to frequencies absent for generations. These changes are subtle, detectable only through long-term monitoring, but they suggest resilience rather than recovery. The blue whale's story is not one of dominance, but of balance. Its existence depends on conditions that cannot be forced or hurried. Evolution built this animal over millions of years under stable physical laws and ecological rhythms. Human activity disrupted those rhythms in moments. Nothing about blue whales is normal because nothing about them is expendable. They reveal the outer edge of what life can do when conditions align, and how easily that alignment can unravel. Even now, as they move through the dark beneath the waves, blue whales remain reminders that the largest lives are not the strongest, but the most dependent on a world that still understands how to sustain them.